I haven't gotten to the city much over the last couple of years since.
Hey, we're
Are
live.
we up? Are we live? I can
Yep.
never tell because there's like on my actual YouTube, there's like a delay of about a few minutes.
Yeah, no, that's usually how it is.
Yeah. So, welcome everybody. You're probably noticing a brand new face down below. We'd like to welcome our special guest today, Mr. Pete Pardo, the musical genius, I think, or music expert. I don't know. I don't know what we call you. Do you have a nickname like that people call you for this?
They just call me Pete.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
And differently
I don't
from
know if I
Roy.
necessarily have a nickname. I don't know.
And not like
Um,
Roy, his CD collection in the back is actually real.
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Yeah, that's
that's only about half of them.
how many you have, you think? Is that plus vinyl? I'm sure you got a vinyl
I don't
collection
know.
too?
I don't have vinyl.
Oh, okay.
I gave up all my vinyl in the early '90s, and I never looked back. So probably I don't know 10, 11,000 CDs, probably at
Man, that
least,
is awesome. That's
maybe
amazing.
more. I don't know.
That's
I
crazy.
stopped counting at like 8, and that was a number of years ago. So
You're right. So we got Prog Nick back with us, and of course Dan is
Everybody,
running things as you all know. And Jeff, I think, might check in, and the other guys are sleeping. I don't know what they're doing. We have a revolving cast of people. We're real happy to have you on here, Pete. You and I have emailed a bunch of times and coordinated on a few things, but it's cool to get somebody like yourself who kind of does what we do. I think we do things a little differently and some degrees and stuff like that, but we overlap a little bit, and it's fun. I think what you do is amazing, and we want to ask you all about that and how you manage just the insane amount of content that comes upon your channel. So thanks for joining us this morning. It's
I
pretty
was hoping
pretty
you guys
cool.
could tell me how I manage it all because I don't know.
I, I mean, we're barely scraping by with one podcast a week, so congratulations.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, so we always like to talk a little bit about what's new on the website. In the last couple of weeks, there's been interviews with Andy Tillison of The Tangent, and they have a new album coming out next Friday, songs from the Hard Shoulder, which is excellent. And I had an interview with Carl Palmer, which was pretty cool. I haven't never spoken to him on the channel after all these years, so it was really nice to get to talk to Carl. So those are up on the podcast, on the audio podcast. And some new reviews. Jeff saw Queen live over in Belfast and did a nice review of that. Pineapple Thief review, Tangent review, and then we did a spotlight thing on Licorice Quartet, the new Evergrey, and the La Lu album, Paint the Sky, which everybody was harassing us about for the last many months that we missed. Did you check out that album, the La Lu album, Pete?
I know, but I talked to a lot of people who really liked it a lot.
Yeah, every time we come on this podcast, we ask like, what should we listen to? And that's the number one thing everybody. And actually, fantastic record. You should check it out. You'll dig it. And of course, we didn't get a chance to cover. We did on the website, but we didn't talk about it because it was before the timing for the live stream didn't happen. But Alan White passing, which was pretty major news in the music world and the prog world, and a terrible thing that happened there. And of course, they had just announced that he wouldn't be participating in the tour. And I guess just the other day they said the tour's going on. So not much of a surprise there. I would imagine that he would have even told them, go ahead and do it, I would think. So yes, we'll be touring sometime later this year. And you did a nice tribute to him on your website as well, which was great.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I literally heard about it, and then, like, within like a half hour, I did the tribute. That's kind of the way I like to do those. It's just kind of put together some thoughts as you hear about the tragedy, and yeah, it's just weird how he literally passed a day or two after they announced that he wouldn't be taking part in the tour. And I totally agree with you. I don't really think he would have played much on the tour anyway.
Right.
Other than maybe do like a few guest appearances here and there. But, the last couple of times I've seen them live with him, I was like, I don't know how much longer he's going to be able to do this for.
Hey
So,
there, everybody.
very sad.
Yep. But of course, incredible musician, lots of, I mean, just insane amount of music that's
Yeah.
out there. And I'm sure everybody watching our channel is, well aware of all of that. So, guys, anything else going on in your worlds? What have you been listening to? Seen any concerts? What's been up?
No concerts, sadly.
Uh-huh.
It's over. The
Off you go,
concert
Danny.
season is over for me.
Yeah.
I've been listening to some of the usual stuff. Actually, I kind of need to get into some of the new albums that I missed. I actually been on a Deer Hunter binge since the last live stream a couple weeks ago.
It's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
It feels like a couple of years.
A couple weeks ago, I listened to that one song for the first time from the new album, Antime. Is that it?
Antime.
Yeah. So, amazing song. Like, I love that track. It's up there already on my top 5 of the year for sure.
Nice.
And so I've been listening to the Deer Hunter because I've been missing it. It's been a while. Apart from that, just the usual stuff that I listen to. I guess driving,
Speaking of Deer Hunter, they just reissued the parts 4 and 5 vinyls on their website, which I picked up yesterday.
Nice.
Because I am being an idiot and rebuying a bunch of vinyls, but I only buy the ones that I really like.
Yeah.
Like and those are 2 of my favorite albums of all time. So
I'm curious to watch your favorite Deer Hunter act album, not overall, the act.
but about it. But again, they did a 5-part thing, Act 1, Act through Act 5, over like 10 years, and the 5 albums connect, with repeating themes throughout all 5, and the story's amazing, and it's just every style you could ever do. It's just phenomenal. It's
Yeah, I
absolutely
mean, like I
worth
said,
checking out.
so many people have asked me that question, and I'm always it's one of those bands that I always mean to get to, but I mean, I listen to 300 to 500 albums a year across all
It's
the
crazy.
genres
I know.
that we
I
cover.
hear ya.
And there's always going to be bands that people are like, and you never listen to these guys? I'm like, no, because the other 500 kind of, it's hard. It really
It's
is.
hard. It is. It's crazy. I know. I did get to see Paul McCartney last weekend. That was a lot of
Nice.
fun. Drove a few hours up north to Orlando and in a big stadium. And I mean, it was just awesome. He's 80 years old and it was insane. His voice obviously a little weaker, as people have noted, but it's still really good. I mean, totally solid and worth touring, 100%. And his band is killer, and the songs are amazing, and it was just worth every penny. It was awesome, so good. Nick, what about you? What are you listening to?
Well, I mean, as you know, Roy, we've been involved in porcupine tree related matters, a podcast and a review, all of which are kind of due over this time. And so listening to a lot of porcupine tree for that reason, kind of for you, but also in honor of Alan White. I've had Yes songs pretty much on the turntable nonstop for the whole week. Just remembering him, remembering how great he was, and God bless him. Yeah, great loss.
Pete, what are you listening to these days that you can talk about? I guess sometimes we get stuff way early that we can't even dispose.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can talk about some things. So I've been listening a lot to the new Zero Hour, which is a great technical progressive metal band from California. It's their reunion album. They've been away for quite a while. I've been listening to the new Evergrey quite a bit. New Wofat, which is a really cool kind of stoner doom power trio from down in Texas. The new Graham Bonnet Band album.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to a lot of Black Crowes because we're going to be doing a Black Crowes album ranking soon here on the channel. We listen to like the Cult and the Tea Party, New Thunder. You know, just a lot of everything. I mean, it's for me. It's I find that I'm listening to a lot of krautrock because we're doing a krautrock show on in the Prog Scene on Tuesday. So all this really obscure, like German, you know, kind of proggy, jammy music and psychedelic music. I find that like when people ask me that question, what are you listening to lately? It's my brain goes into overload because I'm like, there's so much I'm trying to listen to review, to do ranking shows, to do discussion shows that it's like it's all over the map. So at any given time, I could be listening to like, you know, 5 new prog albums and, you know, 10 old things, a whole catalog from another band for a hard rock show. So it's really, I'm listening to everything and just trying to digest it all and, you know, be able to talk about it because that's kind of what I do every day. So never a dull moment. There's never a week that goes by or never a day that goes by where I'm not listening to at least 5 or 10 things that I have to kind of form an opinion on. So
I wonder if you maybe relate to this though, because you're the stuff you cover on your channel is a bit more broad, right? So you can delve into classic rock, jazz, fusion, you know, the different things. We're a bit more specific, and I like other things outside of prog, obviously. So did you ever struggle with wanting to actually listen to something that you just want to enjoy and finding the time to actually sit and be able to do it that you won't be covering?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. And that's what I use my hour at the gym for every day.
Right.
When I'm at the gym, I go to the gym every day around noontime. That's my lunch hour, right? I leave the house because I work from home. I go to the gym. It's 3 miles away. And for that hour, I listen to something that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about on YouTube or writing, you know, or reviewing for the website or whatever. And that's my kind of like me time. And sometimes like maybe when I'm cooking dinner, you know, at home, like that half hour when I'm getting dinner ready after work. But for the most part, what I'm listening to, you know, during the day while I'm working and in the morning and the evenings is all stuff that, you know, I have to kind of talk about or, you know, write about or whatever. So yeah, so there are days I really crave that little bit of time where I can go and play, you know, Volume 4 by Black Sabbath or Deep Purple Made in Japan, or, you know, something that I love that I just want to hear because I just want to hear it because I have a need to hear it, not because I need to say, all right, I need to, you know, figure out what this whole album is about so I can go and talk about it, right? Because that's the majority of my listening is that. And that's fine because I love doing it. But yeah, sometimes you just want to listen to what you want to listen to because you want to listen to it.
Yeah.
I'm curious about something. I know people recommend your stuff all the time, and this happens to us as well in probably a smaller scale. But when people go and ask you, like, check this band out that you never heard, and you do check it out, which of these bands eventually became one of your favorites? Like, really, you know, brought you in as a fan?
Wow, that's a great question. Like recently, probably the band Earthless. Okay, not really a prog band, but more of like a God, I don't even know what you call them. They play mostly instrumental music. I guess you call them kind of like psychedelic rock, 70s hard rock, blues rock, stoner rock. So it's basically like a trio, and they play, like I said, mostly like instrumental, kind of like doomy stoner 70s blues rock vibes with loads of like acid drenched guitar solos. And I just, you know, I heard of them and people were, you know, you should check these guys out. You should check these guys out. I know you like guitar players like Jimi Hendrix and Robin Trower and blah, 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 blah. So I was like, all right, so I'll give them a try. And I can't stop listening to them now. So that's real recently. So that does happen. But, you know, the problem is too, I get people sending me messages all day long. Here, check this band out. Do you like this band? Here's a link to this. I don't have time to listen to any of it. You know, it's very, very little that I actually say, all right, I'm going to go click on that and go listen to it because I've already got 50 other things I've got to listen to. So everybody wants me to experience what they're loving and then be able to say, hey, such and such recommended this to me. This is really cool. Go listen to it. And I would love to do nothing but that. I just don't have the time, unfortunately. So, but every now and then I do venture and click on one of those recommendations and I'm pleasantly surprised. Like another band, which if you guys haven't listened to these guys, you might like them, a band called Hollis.
Oh yeah,
They are. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I never heard of these guys before, and then someone
I'm not
recommended them to me
familiar.
recently, and then I got the the link to review the album from Napalm Records because they send us all this stuff, and I was like, wow, this is like completely up my alley, right? It's kind of like retro '70s heavy rock prog, and I went out immediately and got their other albums, and that's kind of how I operate. So if like someone turns me on to a band I've never heard before and I really like it, I'll go out and get the catalog immediately.
Yeah,
And I do
Hallis
Right.
is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I listened to some of it, and a big friend of mine, BG, he loves them, and he's always bugging me about showing it to everyone at the Prog Report. He's like, these guys, they should like this, they should like, and I always forget. That's the thing. This is one of those bands that people like recommend to me. I listen to some of it. I was familiar with it, but I forget to just bring up and kind of put it into
Yeah,
our
I
little
mean,
spotlight.
guys, just take a look at these album covers or CD covers, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, you did
I
go
mean,
into, yeah.
that's this is prime stuff for anybody
Yeah,
watching
no.
the show.
All right, put that on the list. Well, maybe we can pull up a track later on.
Yeah. Let me get one, and we'll put it on the list.
That might be cool. So Pete, I want to, we want to find out a little bit more about. I know Sea of Tranquility's been around a long time. When did you decide to take the jump into the YouTube channel and then really then even kick it up a notch? Because I think you had the channel for a little bit also before you started doing 8 videos a day, right? So what was that
Yeah.
transition, and what prompted that?
Yeah, so I mean, Sea of Tranquility has been around since the late '90s, originally as a print magazine. So we were alongside like Progression Magazine and Expose. We were one of the few print magazines that covered like prog rock and prog metal and stuff. And then we started, we sold the rights to the magazine to John Collins at Progression Magazine in like 2000. And then in 2001, we launched the webzine, and I took it over that year as well. So, we had been doing that for, God, 13 years, just kind of slugging away. And I had writers all over the world. Like at one point I had like 25 writers who,
Wow.
wrote for Sea of Tranquility. But I started to notice like in like the late 2000s, about 2010, 11, 12, that not as many people seemed as interested in going and reading reviews right on a website. It was kind of like old news at that point. And I just noticed people were popping up all over YouTube and basically doing that whole webzine thing, but doing it in front of a camera. And actually, instead of it being in written form, people were just talking about new releases and things like that. So I was like, all right, maybe I should do that. And then in 2014, I decided to take the plunge, and I started up the YouTube channel. And God, I look back on some of those old videos and I cringe because they're horrible. Because I have a broadcasting background. I went to college to work in broadcasting, so
Okay,
TV production.
makes sense.
So like this is what I always wanted to do, but being away from it for so long, I can still recall like in 2014, like setting up like my laptop on top of a table in the middle of this office, and me sitting on like a high chair, just sitting there, like just holding up CDs. Hi, I'm Pete Pardo. This is Sea of Tranquility. Today we're going to review, the new Yes album, and we're going to review the new Jethro Tull album. And I'd just be like all stone faced and just sit and talk about it for a couple minutes. And then I'd be like, okay, we'll see you next week with more reviews. And like nobody would watch them. I would be like posting links all over Facebook and Twitter, and like nobody was watching. And I just did them week after week after week. And I couldn't understand why, if we were getting like millions of hits on the webzine, nobody was coming over to the YouTube channel to watch it. So I continued doing that for about like 2 years. And then finally I was like, you know what, maybe I need to kind of step up my game a little bit, because that's what other people were doing. They were doing, different theme shows and topics and things. So I started doing stuff like rants and album rankings and top 10 song shows. And then I started interviewing people here and there. And before you know it, slowly people started watching. And then I hit like 1,000 subscribers, and then more people started watching. And then YouTube started, putting me into the algorithms. I started making like a little bit of money from ads, not much. But it was when I really started to do like panel shows and bring in interesting people to interview, that all of a sudden it just caught on. And then all of a sudden everybody's asking me to come on Sea of Tranquility to talk about whatever, and I decided I wanted to turn it into like, not like a variety show, but like a regular, like almost like a cable channel or a network channel where you have specific programming and shows each day of the week, and people would be comfortable and know that on Mondays I get to see the Hudson Valley Squares. And that was the big breakthrough show for us. That's our Monday night show where I have a panel of people that I know from the Hudson Valley here who are all into music. It's mostly our metal show, hard rock and metal show. And it's just, we're all such characters. We know each other really well. It's kind of like, I call it our R-rated show on the channel, because everybody curses and lets it all loose. And it's a fun show. And that really took off. And that kind of spearheaded the whole like Monday through Friday programming thing. And then we added in the Prog Seat on Tuesday, which originally was going to be a monthly show. Then it became really quickly an every week show. Wednesday, I do nothing but new album reviews. So there's usually anywhere from 2 to 4 to 5, short shows, 5 minutes, where I talk about a specific album that's come out. Thursday we do, because I'm a big horror movie guy. I love horror movies, fantasy movies, that sort of thing. So we do a show called The Monster's Den, which is again another panel show, different theme every week, where we talk about horror movies. That started off really slow, was originally a monthly show. That took off. Now that's weekly. Friday morning, I get together with Martin Popoff, who's, one of the most acclaimed authors out there on hard rock, metal, and prog. And he and I had him on as a guest to interview him one day. Yeah. We had such a good time together. We decided to do another show together. And here we are 2+ years later, and we do a show every Friday morning. So we get together at the crack of dawn, record a show. It's on the air a couple hours later. And, UK Connection on Saturday. We do this thing called Album Homework Assignment on Sunday. So like all of a sudden, I've got shows that run every day of the week without fail, interspersed with things like top 10 songs, album rankings, rants. We do once a month a thing, the Guitarist Corner, which is all centered about guitar talk. We do this thing called the Curse of the Collector, which is, we got a big panel show where everybody talks about some cool box sets or whatever that they've, acquired, and where they got it from, how much they paid for it, and, the whole collector nerdy thing. So it's become a lot of fun. And I mean, we've got like a ridiculous audience that has grown beyond my expectations and continues to, and people who watch every day. And like, if like a show runs late, like I don't get to post something till people are like emailing me and posting on Facebook, where's this show? It's already something. So, I mean, that's a good, and, we do live premieres, which is a lot of fun, and people love sitting in the chat. All these people have gotten to know each other, and they, really are very smart music nerds and have a lot to say. And it's just been really, really cool. And then every month I do like a brief little video in the morning. So there's like a whole month-long theme. Like this month, it's my top 30 Southern rock, my top 30 favorite Southern rock album countdown. Sometimes, some months I'll pick like a year, right, and pick my favorite 30 albums of the year. And each day I do, I do like a countdown type of thing. And people love those because they participate in the comments and in the chat. And I list my pick, they list theirs. So it's become a real community. And I never knew it was going to blow up like this, to be honest with you. And I'm glad we're making people happy. I hear every day from folks that tell me that if it wasn't for Sea of Tranquility coming into my life at the start of COVID-19, I don't know how I would have gotten through.
That probably had to be a not good timing. I don't want to use it like that, but just coincidental. Right? A lot of people were home during COVID, so that had, and you were giving them something to watch, right?
Every day, yeah. And I think, and again, it wasn't planned this way, but I think when COVID started in March of 2020 is really around the time where I started doing these like monthly theme shows that I do every day, and that's really when it started. I think I did I don't even remember what. I think I did like my favorite album by year countdown. I started in like 1965, and I went up to whatever 20 or 2000, I don't know, whatever the year was, and every day of the week I picked my favorite album that was released in 1965, the next day in 1966, and that was when it really started, because I did that right at the start of the pandemic. Again, wasn't planned, that's just when I did it, and I was seeing every day 10, 12, 15,000 views for every video, and people were getting into it, and they were like, okay, Pete's favorite album from 1969 was Beatles, whatever, and my favorite album of that year was this. And every day people, so you'd see 1,000 comments, and I picked my album, they picked theirs, and they followed me every day of the month, and then we just never stopped from there. So I'm happy that we're making people happy. That's what it's all about.
Well, you are. Anybody who's a prog fan is into Sea of Tranquility. I'm particularly interested in the name, Pete, because I mean, how I came across it was I saw on YouTube channel, Sea of Tranquility. And I said to myself, I'll bet you this is a prog music channel. Bet you anything you like. And of course, I went in and there it was. So originally there was the paper magazine, right? And I remember that. And then had forgotten about it. Now there's all the stuff that you do online. But wasn't there also a book called Sea of Tranquility, or was that just a coincidence?
That might have been a coincidence. Yeah, we had nothing to do with that. No.
Right.
Where did the name come from, actually?
Well, I mean, I didn't create it. Our original editor of the magazine, who the late James Bickers, came up with the name, and it's got, Sea of Tranquility, the moon, all that kind of stuff. And I think originally the idea was we were mostly doing progressive rock and progressive metal, like the thinking man's prog and prog metal type of thing. And I guess James had this fascination with the name and the moon, the sea, that whole thing. So I guess that's where it came from. I don't know. Over the years, so many people like, when I took it over in 2001, people were like, you ever thought about changing it? And yeah, I did a few times, but I think now, all these years later, I'd be silly to change it because it's our brand.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, it's unique, it's different. But as to was there a deeper reason to name it that? It could be, but unfortunately, James isn't with us anymore, so I can't even ask him that question. But it's just, it's our brand now. So all these years later,
one of the biggest challenges, I think, that I don't know if you deal with it, but it may be one of those underrated kind of things that at least I deal with, or we deal with, is just coordinating our schedules.
Yeah.
And with the amount of guests that you have and the amount of shows that you have, I think that's one of the biggest accomplishments, because we have things where we all have jobs, everybody's working, we're all in different time zones and things like that. And there's the core of us is about 6 or 7, and sometimes it's like, hey guys, I want to do a best of whatever podcast. When are you guys available? And the earliest any of us can do it all together is 6 weeks from now. Like, it's on Wednesday between 3 and 4:30. Like that's it. That's the only day we can do it. So that, I think, that blows my mind. How do you manage that? That's incredible.
Yeah, that is the number one toughest thing about doing this. Coming up with the programming every week is also a bit of a challenge, but I mean, there's an endless amount of things you can talk about on every show we do. So I don't have as much an issue with that, but it's the scheduling, which is very difficult. Thankfully, because we do like the same shows every day, like generally speaking, this is no big mystery. Like when we do the Hudson Valley Squares on Monday, we're generally shooting those at 8 o'clock at night, between 8 and 9 to 9:30, and they're airing at 10 p.m. When we do in the Prog Seat, we're shooting those at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday, they're airing about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night that night. It's very rare, but there are other shows that maybe appear and air on the weekends, which we have to do at night earlier in the week, whenever we can squeeze them in. But most people appear on these shows weekly, so they know, and they have set aside their schedules.
Right, it's on their calendar, repeated.
It's on their calendar. When they can't make it, they let me know. But I have a whole spreadsheet of every 12 tabs. Each tab is a different month, and it's all the shows that we do, all the topics for each show, who's appearing, who's not appearing, what time it starts. I wouldn't be able to do this without that. I mean, the scheduling is really crazy. And then, you throw a different show, like, trying to schedule an interview with, like Ian Anderson or someone like that, people who I've had a lot of really, important musicians and rock stars who have been on the channel, and trying to get them, scheduled in with my work day. I mean, so many times. And Roy, you as well, you've come to me. It's like, oh, can you interview such and such at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday? I'm like, I can. I got work,
Sure.
right? So it's hard. And then at night, I've got all these other things. So sometimes I'm interviewing people at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, because they're maybe on a different time zone or whatever. And that's whenever I can squeeze it in. And so there are days where I have like no free time for anything. It's
Right.
like I'm sitting in this office 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, doing a few things before I begin my work day. Then I work a full 8 hours. Then I have a little break to go have dinner with my wife. And then I'm back in here for another 4 hours or whatever, doing tapings at night. So the scheduling is really crazy. And that's the part that I've learned to, it's a good thing I'm organized by nature, because otherwise this would be utter
Impossible.
chaos.
No, you have
But
to.
it's hard. Managing people and schedules is the toughest thing about doing this.
Yeah, for sure.
Toughest thing. Yeah.
Well, look, it's really cool that you came on here to join us, and again, I think maybe people would think that there's like a competitive thing that goes on between some of the channels and the websites and stuff like that. And I think it couldn't be further from that, because I think the biggest thing is still, even at its core, at least the prog community is so small, right? And the more people are talking about it, the more we're all doing it, the more we're getting the word out on a band like Haken or whatever. It's good for everybody, and I think uh, I couldn't do what you do, so hats off to you. That's how I look at it, and I think it's amazing.
Thank
So we did set up a quick topic, because normally the live stream, we just sort of, it's more loose. That's why we started doing these, because the regular podcast is very rigid on a topic, right? And we plan it, and there's a guest or whatever, and so this is sort of a way for us to, what's new, what are we listening to, all that kind of stuff. But one thing that did come up to me when we were planning this was, I've been listening a lot to the new Def Leppard. That's one of my outside of Prague favorite bands that I like, and they haven't put out now about in 7 years, right? And in the last couple of years, there's been a bunch of bands that haven't put out an album for 10 years, 15 years. Liquid Tension Experiment, Porcupine Tree are back after 10 years. Yes, was a while. So I was thinking, that might be something interesting to pick your brain about, because, and maybe there's some more that are outside of Prague that, classic rock that have come back that you want to talk about. But are you, in some cases, they haven't been the full band. Porcupine Tree's come back without Colin Edwin. Yes, obviously is there's all the complaints about who's in Yes or not these days. Jethro Tull, again, is just Ian Anderson. So are you for or against those reunion or return albums, I should say? Which has been some of your favorites? Which one do you think were a mistake? Curious to start that discussion. And obviously, Nick and Dan, your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I am 100% for. I am notorious for sticking with a band through thick and thin. Doesn't mean I have to like everything they do, but when I see bands who haven't done anything for 5, 10, 15, 20 years or more, I want to hear it, regardless of how many original members are in the band. I know there's a lot of people that it's like, if it's not the classic band, I won't listen to it. It's not the same. There's a lot of people who take that stance, and that's fine. That's your prerogative. To me, I always want to hear new music from my favorite bands. And to me, the classic stuff didn't necessarily end in 1980 or 1985 or whatever. I think there's been a lot of veteran, legendary bands who have released really good albums later in their career. I mean, and I'll just run through a few of them that
sure.
I thought right off the bat. I think this is a terrific album. Granted,
it is.
Does Ian sound like he used to? No. Is Martin Barr missing from here? Yes. But this is a highly listenable album that, quite frankly, is better than anything that they've done in quite some time. I mean, I think this is their best album since Roots to Branches, and it may even be better than Catfish Rising or, maybe Rock Island. I don't know. It's a really good album. I like it. One band that I have been kind of really promoting quite a bit on SOT, and again, this is maybe borderline prog, but I'm a big Styx fan. And I think
for sure. I'm with you on
Crash of the
those.
Crown,
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, I love Styx.
best albums they've done since Paradise Theater.
Yeah,
Without question.
no question. And I'm real happy they came back. I think Crash of the Crown was one of my favorite albums of last year, and it's just awesome. Yeah.
And I think the same could be said of Kansas, really.
They're on my list too. The last two Kansas albums are absolutely terrific. Best things they've done in years. Really, really good. And I get a lot of people are like, like with Styx, there's a lot, and I love Dennis DeYoung, love him. But there are a lot of people who are like, well, without him, there's no Styx. Without Steve Walsh, there's no Kansas. And I'm like, well, have you listened to these albums? I mean, they're in the spirit of all the classic stuff. I get you have this attachment to their lead singers, but I mean, there's really great material on here that is just as good as a lot of their classic stuff. Uriah Heep is making some of the best music of their career right now. The new Nectar, we lost Roy, but man, this is a really good album. Wishbone Ash, first album in many years.
Hey, go Pete.
Oh, Nick's a big fan, yeah.
And probably one of my favorites out of all of these is the recent Blue Oyster Cult. It's terrific.
I haven't heard that one. Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. So there's a lot of bands, and even on the metal side, there's band like Saxon and Judas Priest and Overkill and Testament, who are like the bands that have been around forever that are just releasing some of the strongest material they've done in years. So, but there's so many people that refuse to listen to anything after like a specific cutoff date. It's like, I only like stuff up to like 1990 or 85 or the late 70s. I mean, there's a lot of people like with the prog bands. There's a lot of folks who they won't listen to anything any of these classic bands have done post 1979. It's
Right.
like,
Yeah, for sure.
You might be
You
missing
mentioned
a lot
Wishbone
of
Ash there. It gets even more complex than that because sometimes there's a split in the band. Like we had Yes West and Yes East at one stage, and the same thing happened with Wishbone Ash. There was a Martin Turner iteration of Wishbone Ash, and then the Andy Powell version of Wishbone Ash, and people felt kind of torn between them. But that's just crazy, man. At the end of the day, these are all just musicians who made great music back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and absolutely no reason why they can't do the same thing now. And to insulate yourself off and call yourself a classic rock fan and say, well, I'm not going to listen to anything after that guy left. I mean, one example would be, okay, Yes, without John Anderson. Who would have thought that such a thing could be possible, right? Except for drama. So there you go. It's really just all about the music at the end of the day, and not when it was produced, and sometimes not even by whom it was produced.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like even more obscure bands than what I just talked about, who have, like Griffin has come back after all these years, released some good material. The Italian symphonic band Celeste released an album a year or two ago, El Principe del Regno Pardo, or however you say it. I don't speak Italian. Terrific, sounds just like their 70s stuff. So there are some bands who are really doing it in the spirit of their old classic music, but with vastly different lineups. But how many people are listening, I don't know. That's I think
the ones that really turned me, because I don't know, I think maybe it depended on the band for me if I was a little bit more hardcore about it or not. But the recent Kansas and Styx albums, I thought were really sort of turning points in my view on that, because at the end of the day I was listening to those and I was enjoying them so much, and I just said, you know what, I'd rather these albums exist than not. I think that at the end of the day that's where I was with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were great records, and it's like, all right, so it's in the spirit of those bands. I'd rather have those bands existing doing something than never again. That's not good. That's not fun. So Dan, are you're awake over there, buddy?
Oh yeah, no, doing fine. I'm enjoying the discussion because Pete, he has such a different perspective than we normally do. We kind of venture in our little bubble here, and I like seeing him talking about this different stuff. Like Blue Oyster Cult, for example, is a band that I'm familiar with. I like some of their stuff, but I'm like not connected with it, And this is something that in between like my jobs actually and this, you don't get a lot of time to enjoy different discussions and different perspectives. So these sorts of discussions, they are good because they take my mind to a place like, okay, I should check this stuff out that's a little bit out of my line generally. Like recently, like I used to listen to a lot of more heavier stuff and just like classic heavy metal. And in my upbringing, like playing guitar was a lot of Maiden and Priest and Rainbow and Sabbath, all that stuff. And I was just talking to Jeff on the Prog Report. We've been friends for like 7 years or something. And I just randomly mentioned one song from Rainbow Rising. And he's like, I never thought you liked it. I'm like, dude, I'm a big Dio fan. Of course I like it. And that's the thing. When you're so focused on one thing, you forgot about discussing all the other things.
What was the song you guys were talking about? I forget. I saw that chat come up.
Stargazer?
No, not Stargazer. It was the last one on the album. It's the longest one. Let me try to remember. Not the Wolf song, because my A Light in the Black.
Yep.
A Light in the Black. It has like it's pretty proggy. It has like a duet, like keyboards and guitars and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty
Greatest
cool.
sides in hard rock history.
Oh yeah.
Side 2 of that album. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of that record, Pete. A couple of other ones that came out that I've really enjoyed. Liquid Tension, after 20 years releasing
good.
record, which was fantastic, and so happy to see them back. John Petrucci's solo record, which was also, I don't know, 20 years or something. My favorite album of the year, honestly, which is, I don't know what you would think about this, but it's been the new Tears for Fears, which is back after 17 years, and I'm a huge fan of those guys, and it's possibly their best record, which is amazing to say. And so yeah, I'm really happy for most of these bands. I think generally I enjoy most of them if it's a band I like. I don't know that I've been really disappointed much. I guess maybe Heaven and Earth by Yes was a low point. Um, I do think the Quest was significantly better. If still not hitting the high mark that we expect, but I do think it was better. Um, and another one that was good, Dan, I think which you liked was the Star One album that just came out earlier
Oh,
this
yeah.
year,
Yeah,
which was
yeah.
Aryan.
fantastic. He usually does great stuff anyway, Arian.
That's the thing. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not just talking about bands who have gone away and come back who might have been very well known previously. I mean, there are some bands who weren't in the spotlight at all, but have come back and done some amazing stuff. For me, the prime example of that this year was Jonas Lindberg and The Other Side with their album Miles from Nowhere. I mean, I keep on going on about this album, I know, but I really think that it's deserving of the highest praise. It really is up there with some of the best prog stuff I've heard in recent years. They released something in 2012, then in 2016, and then they went away because they were all jobbing musicians. And then the pandemic allowed them to start recording again. And then in 2022, Miles from Nowhere came out. You think about some of the songs on there. The title track obviously is a magnum opus, but Little Man, Why I'm Here, Secret Motive Man, these are sublime tracks. So for me, on the lesser known level, that was the band that kind of made a big impression on me this year, particularly.
I think also like when you take supergroups into account, you kind of like you expect them to release one album and then take a big break and then they come back, and every time they release a second or third album it's always a comeback. So you right, and so like Transatlantic with the Whirlwind is a little bit different because they were actually done, but that's the biggest example I got. And other supergroups like some of the Face Warning guys, like the Arch Mateos stuff, that kind of thing. When it happens is always an event. It's different than like a band like Dream Theater or Iron Maiden who've been on a cycle of releasing albums and touring albums and touring albums and touring, recording, la la la. It's different. Of course it's an event, but it's not like, oh my god, they're back. Like, yeah, of course they're back. They never stop. That's the thing.
Yeah, just going back to the Jethro Tull that you mentioned, Pete. So, I mean, it is what it is. Those who've heard it, it's called the Zealot Gene, and it's Ian Anderson expressing himself as only he can. But of course, there's always been this division amongst Tull fans as to whether he should be calling an album Jethro Tull or should he be calling it Ian Anderson. A previous example of that was the album A, and also I think that the same division happened with Under Wraps. Now, all this great music, I mean, at the end of the day, does the label really matter? So that's kind of the question I'm asking you. Do you think this should have been released as Jethro Tull or should have been released as Ian Anderson?
Well, I mean, the question is, how many people are going to listen to it if it's just Ian Anderson versus called Jethro Tull?
Right.
My opinion, Ian Anderson has always been Jethro Tull. You can make an argument for it's not fully Jethro Tull if Martin Barr is not on board, right? And that's very valid because he is as much a part of the Jethro Tull sound as Ian Anderson. But the guy who has always wrote all the songs and all the music is Ian Anderson. So he has a right to call it Jethro Tull, in my opinion. And from a record label perspective, which is going to sell more? A Jethro Tull album is going to sell more than an Ian Anderson solo album. And granted, A is a perfect example of that was supposed to be an Ian Anderson solo album. They decided to release it as Jethro Tull for the reasons I just said. It sounds like a Tull album, right? Everything other than some of those early solo albums that he did, the Birds album, and I forget the titles of them, where it's mostly instrumental music with him. I mean, those are bona fide solo albums, but when he's got a full band together and there's vocals and things, it's a Jethro Tull album. So I don't have an issue with them releasing this as Jethro Tull. I think it makes sense if he's going to go out on the road as Jethro Tull, if he's going to have a set band and they're going to call themselves that. I don't have an issue with it. And again, a lot of people, though, because Martin's not involved, they're having a hard time with this. And I understand that, too. But what it comes down to is who's going to go see them live and who's going to buy the album. People who see the Jethro Tull name across the front.
Yeah.
There are some who will buy anything with the Ian Anderson name on it. That's true. But I think you have to take into account that the greater numbers are going to come from that Jethro Tull name.
No doubt. Hey, Dan, I just noticed you named the live stream of Tranquility, which is pretty brilliant.
Thank you, sir.
Fantastic.
The best part of this job, the live streams, is naming every one of them. It's my favorite part. Yeah.
or in our case, you might call it Sea of Reports.
So we have a question in the chat. What's in the running right now for the top prog album of 22? So yeah, what's your guys' opinion on top album so far? Dan?
I'm trying to remember what came out this year.
It's so much already.
It's
so much already, and it's only June. I mean, it's crazy.
I know, like, PSA is up there for me, the Pattern Seeking Animals album. Even though I like the second one more, I think that's one. And I know this one came out this year. Porcupine Tree?
That's up there for sure.
Yeah,
Really
well, hang on. Not released yet, right? So
that was my. I was hesitant to say it because of it, but
gotta be released stuff.
Yeah, for sure. PT is up there.
You know what's funny? It's just you did bring it up, Nick, but the Jonas Limber one's up there for me as possibly my favorite so far, and Big Train. Welcome to the Planet. I think
that's one I was going to say. Yeah, that's
is fantastic as well.
Also, I like, for me, Michael Romeo, of course.
Oh yeah,
I'm a big Symphony X guy, so everything he does is like a big thing for me, Trying to think of something else.
How about the James LeBrie album?
Not the best. I mean, it's a really good record.
Also, not really prog.
Yeah, I would say that. Not much of a prog record. The Flower Kings album was really good. Oh
yeah, Flower Kings is great.
The Marillion
Royal Decree.
Oh, the Marillion for sure. Yeah, the Marillion was great.
Yeah.
There's a lot more stuff coming.
Yes.
that I can't say is in the top of the list yet. That
is a good discussion in like 6 months. We'll have an actually
oh my god, the best of at the end of the year is just always crazy.
It's always super fun to discuss and look back, because when you're going through the year, you don't keep like thinking, at least I don't, like, okay, this is a 2022 top album. What happens is when we are in December and we like compile everything that came out, you go back and look, wow, was that this year?
I keep a running list, so I set up a playlist on iTunes with just one track from each album that I've been listening to this year, and I just let that fill in through the year, because otherwise I forget. I mean,
I have to do that as well. I have a spreadsheet that's got.
I
will say it hasn't come out yet, but everybody who's watching, there is a band called Birth that are coming out with a new album, I believe, next month.
Okay.
Do not miss it.
All right, write that down. I'm not familiar with them.
Birth. Okay. This is basically the new band formed from the ashes of the band called Astra. And it's a trio, terrific, like Mellotron, Moog drenched 70s rock, 70s progressive rock. Nice. Amazing.
All right,
amazing.
Cool. Birth.
If you like Wobbler, you'll love these guys.
All right, sounds good.
Wobbler's great.
Yeah. You want to do some video watching?
Let's do it. Everyone's in the link.
You got the link there, Pete, in the chat.
Yeah.
You can pull that up. And Dan sort of runs it, and
how do I do it? Do I have to turn my volume off, or how does that work?
No. You've just got to press the little play icon there.
I'll do the
just
play,
once.
but if you don't have headphones, Pete, if they don't if they are bleeding into your microphone.
You can just keep the volume low on it. It should be okay.
Yeah,
so
probably.
you can hear it.
Cool.
But I think you do have to press play right at the beginning, just once.
Okay.
Yeah.
Done.
Okay. So 4 of us are here. We're starting with Ryo Akimoto.
So he doesn't really have a single, but I thought this was worth checking out because the lineup on this is pretty sick. He has a new album coming out called The Myth of the Mostrophos, whatever that is, a big dragon, I guess, if you look at the cover. And from the clip here, it has a really cool Spock's Beard sound, obviously, and a bunch of Spock's guys play on it, and Michael Sadler and Steve Hackett and Jonathan Mover, and it's pretty crazy. So the trailer sort of gives away a little bit of it, which we can check out. I thought would be cool.
All right.
If people aren't familiar with it. Have you heard this yet, Pete?
No, I have not.
I love the cover.
Yeah, that is pretty.
Oh yeah,
I mean, just this opening is so Spock's Beard. It's like, it sounds like it's from the X album.
very, very much so.
His face.
Rio is rock and roll.
Got back with me.
I love this. I think it sounds so cool.
Jonathan
I mean,
Moore,
look
that's
at the
another
lineup.
guy from in a while, yeah.
Randy McStein on it.
A while.
Michael Whiteman co-wrote the album with him.
That's awesome.
Nick DiVirgilio sings on a song. So
Plays
said
on 2
Leonard.
songs.
So that comes out in August, and yeah, you can pre-order it now.
Kind of like a
really
That's gonna be
pantheon
really
of prog
good.
stars.
Yeah, pretty
Everybody
cool
is
stuff.
anybody.
And then we're going into Evergrey.
So you mentioned this, Pete, earlier. I just started listening to this because I hadn't had this one on my radar, but this song just blew me away. Save Us. This is amazing.
Whole album is great. Yeah, they never disappoint, these guys.
What a great hook in the chorus on this one. I mean, I was just like blown away.
Probably one of the most unique progressive metal bands we have.
Yeah,
It's so amazing.
When I was first discovering prog metal, like 15 years ago, this was one of the first bands that I came across. I kind of lost them at some point. I stopped following their releases, but it's always like enjoyable stuff.
Oh, we should point out again, if we get cut off for any reason, then the show is over.
Yeah, sometimes
We normally are okay because we don't play too long of the songs, but it's happened before.
Yeah.
Such a great voice,
Yeah.
man.
Nice.
This part,
It's
man.
different. They don't normally do like the gang style vocals on their songs, so that's why this one is a little bit different.
Have you heard this song, Dan? This chorus is so good.
No, I haven't. Really cool. Chat, let us know if sound is okay.
Yeah, if you guys can hear us over the music, that's a good idea. All right, let's drop out of this one. So we've already played a bit of it.
Okay, so
That's
this
great.
is a request from Roy.
All right, so
Explain yourself.
I do harass people about Def Leppard because I think they get a bad rap sometimes. I do like the new album, but I wanted to share this song a little bit because it is the proggy moment on the record, and I thought it would be worth checking out a little bit.
Yeah, you converted me, Roy.
It's a good. They still do some really good stuff. Have did you check out the record, Pete? Did you do a review of this one yet?
No, I have.
Are you over them at this point?
You know what? I honestly haven't liked anything they've done in a long time. I've been hearing such bad things about this album, so I've hesitated to dive into
No,
it.
I don't know. Again, it's not Pyromania, it's not High and Dry, so yes, if you're looking at that, it's not that. But I think it's a pretty solid record. I actually think most of their albums, the last 3 or 4 records, they've all been kind of the same and okay. I don't think this one is light years different than the last few, to be honest with you. I think the songs are what they are. They're pretty good. You know, and I think for a band still doing it, I'm pleasantly surprised each time. That's how I look at it. But what do we got next?
Derek Sherinian.
Oh, this is badass. This song's amazing.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Simon Phillips, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
we got a copyright thing, but I don't think we've been blocked yet.
Oh, we did from who?
Yeah. I love this stuff, and like Simon, he's just amazing.
Simon's the best.
Yeah.
He's
Such a
in a
cool
new
guy.
band with Simon Phillips, with Jim Matheos,
Yes.
Joey Vera, and Steve Overman, I think is his name.
Yeah,
from
that's a
FM.
lineup, dude.
They just announced it. It's called Kings of Mercia, coming out on Metal Blade.
Looking
Yeah,
forward
it's going
to
to be
it.
killer.
Yeah.
So Simon was on the cruise with what band?
Protocol.
Well, his own, the Protocol.
Protocol.
Oh, okay.
I watched both
And let me
sets.
tell you, you know what? I'll say this about Simon. The nicest guy on the ship. Came up to all the young bands, watched them in the crowd, came backstage to talk to them. Just super nice. Like, didn't have to do anything like that, but totally did and was awesome. Really.
Super nice, man. And when, for both of his sets, you could just see all the drummers on the ship just heading towards the Simon Phillips stage, you know, just to give
Jason
penance to the
Bieler,
master.
formerly of Saigon Kick, back in the day, but he did a good solo record a couple of years ago, and he's back with a new song from an upcoming record. Hasn't been announced yet, but this song is nice and killer and heavy. It's good shit.
Okay.
And he announced that Marco Miniman's on the track on the album as well. I saw on a thing.
I like this style, like the
Well,
art
he always
direction.
does the big harmony vocals. All that's his thing. That's what I mean, this is basically a Saigon Kick song. That's what it sounds like.
Little chugga chugga riff, man.
Yeah, headbanging.
Yeah.
I dig this.
I have no idea what time signature this thing is either. He's not really prog, but he always ventures just to sort of the line where, you know, prog people might kind of dig it.
Sounds like it's in 13.
Yeah, I dig that.
Sick riff from
New
nothing.
Long Distance Calling. I haven't heard this yet. I've been meaning to check this out.
So I don't know this band.
They're a German, mostly instrumental band. They did a couple of times. They had a vocalist here and there, but I think they're sticking with instrumental now. They do some cool stuff. They were on Inside Out. They're not anymore. I'm not sure what label it is now.
This is my thing, dude. Sounds really good. I love like the keyboard sounds, like so atmospheric.
They don't. They need a little bit more like,
Changes?
I don't know. Well, or some soloing over it. It's mostly just kind of just riffage in parts. Actually, the one album they did where they had vocals, I thought was excellent, and I wish they had kind of stuck with that a little bit.
Hey, somebody's asking us to play the new Big Big Train tour trailer.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
Unity project. Why not?
I'll skip this one and we'll check out Halas.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
This is our second Napalm Records song of the day. It's an interesting way to start a video.
Just a guy, yeah. These guys are great.
Where are they from?
Germany?
Or Norway or something. I forget exactly.
Yeah, it might be Norway, yeah. I mean, it's not near any of us.
Love the headband.
Sure.
This doesn't really sound proggy. Like, what is it?
It's kind of 70s rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is a lot of 70s, but there is a couple songs that I've checked out. They're proggier for sure. They have like a keyboard sound that it's really like trademark prog.
Somebody's saying, was there a mention about a new Peter Gabriel album? apparently he posted word of a tour and possibly a new album. I'm not buying a new Peter Gabriel album because he just comes out and says that every year for the last 28 years, and until he actually releases one, I'm not believing it. This is cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Can you pull up the Big Big Train trailer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's listen to that.
Hang on.
Pete, have you heard this one with Alberto singing?
Something new?
Well, it's a teaser
It's like
where they just show samples of him singing, I think part of a new song, and East Coast Racers on there as well.
Is it the Journey Continues
Yes.
tour?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
So it's kind of like a presentation of him.
I think one of you guys, Roy, I don't know.
Yeah. What happened?
It's bleeding the sound. It's
Oh, okay.
echoing.
Let
Yeah.
me let me lower it from
Yeah,
my end.
okay,
Okay,
cool.
go ahead.
Yeah, now it's good.
So this is kind of proving that he can do what David Longdon did.
I guess that's what they're trying to do.
And then
Kind
they
of
do a
setting
new
up
song.
what it sounds like so people go actually watch them and have an expectation of how it's gonna sound.
I mean, it sounds definitely different.
No doubt.
It's gonna be weird, man. It's just so sad.
It's going to be weird to hear the old songs,
David was like just my favorite singer right now.
but you know, obviously this is going to be a new chemistry. It's going to be something slightly different. I'm quite looking forward to it.
But someone's commenting, they're saying this is the Prog multiverse.
Yeah.
We are the meta of
Okay,
prog.
so listen to this part. This is the East Coast Racer part. This sounds so strange to me. Still good though.
No, he's
He's
fantastic,
good.
dude.
He is really good.
I mean, this is just my favorite song ever. So
Yeah, look, I mean, you take your favorite Spock's Beard epic and get it sung by somebody else, it's going to sound different.
someone's asking if we know about a new King Crow album. I don't.
Yeah, I've
Have you heard
heard
anything
about
a
it.
new King Crow?
I've
You did?
heard about it. Yeah, I have actually been listening to some of the Persistence lately, which is one of the first albums I reviewed for the Prog Report. I forgot the name of the new album. I can check it out in a bit. But yeah, I'm excited. The last one was really good.
The last one was good.
And
Cool. I think this is a good place to stop after
yeah,
this one.
actually, I think Pete, if you want to share a song with us,
You got anything
think-
we should check out?
Yeah, you know what? Why don't you check out Stigmata by 0 Hour if you can get it.
Okay. Yeah, we should check those out. I'm not familiar.
let's check out the drum playthrough, because otherwise it's just gonna be an image, just a track.
Okay.
So
Yeah, cool.
And we have a drummer in the house, so he can analyze.
Try and do this to me.
Oh, they're on Frontiers. Okay. It's a nice drum set. A lot of
Great song.
cymbals.
Never had too many seconds. Sounds a bit like Dino Jelusic.
A little bit.
That is a weird drum beat. It's
Yeah,
not a normal
totally.
drum beat.
Yeah, these guys don't do anything conventional. by any means.
Yeah, just like tempo change.
Yeah, he's just doing drum fills the whole time.
This is in 6.
I mean, I can see why they did a drum playthrough for this video, because it's insane.
This is good.
Yeah, I like it too.
Good choice, Pete.
Thank you.
I like this.
It's a really good album. Really good album.
Yeah, we gotta check it. Check it out later. So
All right, 0
yeah,
hour. That's a
that's
good place
it.
to stop
We-
here.
We don't want to take too much of Pete's time.
Yes. Hey, again, Pete, thanks again for joining, man. I hope this wasn't a bad time for you, but we had a great time having you on and checking
to
out some
join.
stuff, picking your brain a little bit, and head over to Sea of Tranquility. I'm sure everybody here already does. For hours and hours of programming every day. And pleasure, man.
Yeah.
We'll
So
Pleasure's
Pete,
all mine.
where can people
Good
find
having
you?
you.
It's just Sea of Tranquility everywhere.
Yeah, so if you go on YouTube, search for Sea of Tranquility Prog, and that'll get you right to us. I also have a second channel called Comic Book Geezers, if you're in, like I have any time for a second channel. But yeah, where we talk all about, as you can see up on top of my CD racks, lots of old comic books. So it's all
wow.
about like 60s, 70s, and 80s comic books. So that's that. And if you want to find us on the webzine, it's www.seaoftranquility.org, and we're also on Facebook. So we're all over.
So you still do the website with reviews and stuff. There's still
Yep.
some people reviewing on there, I know.
Yeah, we actually, believe it or not, I have more reviewers, writers now than I've had in years because of the renewed interest in the YouTube channel. Now everybody has realized that there also is a webzine, which has been around a lot longer. So I've had a lot of people who have reached out, want to write for the webzine. So we've got a good amount of writers now. So we've got like about 24,000 album reviews on the website. So that's mostly what we do there is review albums. So yeah, that's a lot of stuff going on there as well. So.
Cool. All right, guys. We'll talk again soon. Have a great rest of your weekend.
That's awesome. Pete, nice to meet you, man.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you,
same
Roy.
here.
man.
Nice to
Nice
see you
to meet you,
guys.
Pete.
All right,
We're
guys.
ending stream in 3, 2, 1. Thanks, chat. Bye. All right.
Cool.